Good evening. I'm going to open up the June 5th public hearing for the sewer commissioners. The Kingston Sewer Commission will hold a public hearing on June 5th, 2025 at 6:30 PM in room 200 of the Town Hall, 26 Evergreen Street, Kingston, to discuss and vote on sewer rates, charges, fees, and civil penalties, and sewer rules and regulations, special assessments, betterment, privilege fees, and amendments thereto. Copies of the drafts of these documents will be available for review at the clerk's office and sewer commissioner office. If you have any questions, please call 781-585-4058, and this was published 5/21 as well as 5/28/25. So with that, first course of business, we have no one in attendance, so I will open up the hearing. Our intent is to review the sewer rates, charges, fees, and civil penalties. We have a leaching field debt that needs to be paid on a yearly basis, and that debt is reflected in the third page of the debt allocation for leaching field.
Do we need a motion to open the hearing?
I'm sorry, yes.
I make a motion to open the hearing, public hearing.
Second that.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Bill.
No, it's,
Let me write that down. Okay. So if the third page of the handouts, we have debt for the leaching fields. Currently, we have 2,529 EIUs. The leaching field debt for next year is $404,831. The town voted to support $137,000 towards that debt, leaving $267,831 to be divided by the current users of 2,529. So one of the discussions we need to have is, do we want to do betterments, which would mean we would have a fixed rate, a fixed amount for 20 years put on the real estate taxes? Or we have another option of putting the same approach on the water sewer bills that would give us more flexibility year to year to adjust based on getting new users, whatever other revenue sources may become available. It would give us flexibility to adjust it quicker, rather than if we went the betterment route, it's locked in with the lien on your property for 20 years for one set amount. And if we got new customers, we would have to revisit that amount in a public hearing, liens, release liens, add liens. So do we want to make a decision on the approach first, and then we can get into more details? Would we want it as a betterment, fixed price on the real estate bills, or added to the water sewer bills with flexibility really per quarter if we wanted
as
to?
a special assessment of sorts.
Exactly.
That's the one I would like to go with.
So I'll make the motion, I'll second
Okay,
Yeah, make a motion.
so that way our discussion can.
We would look at it as a special assessment.
Yeah, okay,
that. And I think it's important to state that we would rather not be here at all, but because of circumstances. Oop.
yeah.
Yeah, so the motion that's on the table is, based on our reflection on this in the past, is we'd rather not be here at all. But
Right.
because of circumstances that beyond our control, we had to go this route. But the flexibility part is critical, because our best thought here is that it will go down as we get more users and we break through whatever constraints we have in front of us now. So I think that's a really important point to make.
Okay, so to give us that flexibility, if we come up with a formula
Right.
rather than a money amount,
Do you want to move that question? I mean, the motion, and he seconded it.
all in favor?
Aye.
You want to?
I'm
And I don't mean
sorry.
that sarcastically.
I just want to make sure.
I'm not focused.
I'd rather go more than often
Yes.
than not at all.
Yes, and thank you for that, I appreciate it. So, to come up with a formula, it would, I had my sheets here, let me get them. Anyway, so I came up with, to start the discussion, basically what's on page 3. The yearly debt, less any revenue sources, which could be, if we go back each year and ask town meeting for an amount, that would reduce it. So it would be yearly leaching field debt divided, less, I don't know the word, subsidies?
Less town-wide contribution.
Well, and then do we want to use some of the 1.6 million left over from,
I think, available revenue.
okay, so,
There's available revenue from capital budget items. So we're not taking it from our O and M, get into that trap. That's my recommendation, let's put that.
right, yearly leaching field debt less,
Available revenue from available capital cost money. That would bring in the 1.6 if we have to. That's all money that's put there for betterment payoff.
okay,
Let's make sure that's clear. That's,
okay.
yeah.
Less revenue from capital costs,
I need
And-
betterment funds, available betterment funds.
and then how do we describe the town money?
And that would be town allocation, annual town allocation, which we've established that number.
We have, and it needs to be voted every year, so
Yeah.
they can say yes or no every year.
We'll be able to go up and down, up and down from that point. So I would just, I think, calling it available, town allocation per annual town meeting, maybe.
Okay, you know what we can do? We can do yearly leaching field debt less available revenue, and then we can describe what available revenue is.
Yeah.
Okay? Less available,
Would that number include septage and that sort of?
whatever we want it to.
Okay. Yeah, just to have that flexibility if we get a surplus of septage revenue that we can contribute if we need to.
Yeah, or want to, just to,
Right.
yeah.
It's a little more open than I like, but I think.
Well,
At this point, maybe we don't have the flexibility.
in our rules and regulations, we can define it. And that definition can change as we have a public hearing to change it.
Okay.
So we can make it all-inclusive and then pare it back when we're in better shape. So yearly leaching field debt, less available revenue, divided by EIUs. Divided by current EIUs.
Current IES, because they're gonna go up. You know, they're gonna continue to go up, which makes the number per household, per EIU go down.
Right.
Yeah, that's,
Okay, so that'll be our formula that we'll put in our rules and regulations, and we'll define available revenue as 1.6. Any town contributions,
additional betterment receipts. I mean, the 1.6 is one, there's other betterment receipts
Right.
in that cube.
and I'll add connection fees to betterment connection fees. And any other sources available to us,
Yeah, I think
because,
I might just add, to add a clause with the priority for available capital revenue. Priority, we keep ourselves the flexibility, but I'd just like to get us in that more clearly going forward in the habit of not taking septage money.
right,
It should be put there for the exact reason the enterprise account has it, and just making sure it's like a discipline thing going forward, you know? But if we have to do it, but the idea is to get this to be zero.
right, exactly. So we'll make, the first one will be priority is the available capital revenue, then the 1.6, no, then,
I just say available
Yeah.
betterment money, available
Yeah.
betterment
okay,
funds, it's
Um,
more than that.
okay. What we can do is have this discussion, we'll put it in writing, we can continue the public hearing to our next meeting, just to confirm that we're all,
Yeah.
the language is right. Okay, so, So that's that. So for this year, we're gonna put it, our goal is to put it on the water sewer bill. And do we want to take a portion of the 1.6 million from the apartments? Jeannie has just talked with DLS, Division of Local Services, and they said that if we did that, it would not affect our free cash. It would not create an issue for free cash. And they said that because it was available funds, we could utilize it. And she actually has voice messages from the representative at DLS if, there's any concerns with it. So we have the authority anyway, but we also have DLS's approval. That there would be no adverse effect on our financials by doing that. So if we do a year-by-year basis.
So I know we did that analysis, I'm thinking right now, let's put this on again, right? We did a couple of scenarios on that.
Yeah, it's the seventh sheet in. Right now, of that 1.6 million, we take 53,000 each year anyway to pay their portion of the debt for that. If we add another 100 to that, take 153,000 each year, it would last 10 years. If we had to do that every year, and again, we all know our intent and goal is not to do that.
And so if we did that for this year, what would it do to change the,
With that amount, it would reduce,
that's the lower number, right?
yeah, if we don't use the 1.6 million, the 26 cost will be $106. If we do use it, it'll be $66.
So this year,
Our choice is one.
we have plenty of time. That's the good news. I mean, I think that my preference would be to do that this one year.
Yeah.
And it just puts our whole dilemma more in, we're trying our best,
Right.
but we gotta get people hooking up, we gotta get the big numbers coming in. And I think this is a fair way to approach it.
So you just want to do the 153 for the first, this year?
Yeah, do it this year, and
Yeah.
And it's only a tenth of what's
Yeah.
there.
Right.
No.
It's not even the 10th, it's really a 13th,
Yeah.
right?
You have a comment, Dave?
Just a couple comments on that. One is to have the flexibility to either use it or not use it.
Right.
And I imagine that formula that we put together will give us that option.
Yes.
Just to avoid coming back to another public meeting if something were to go south. And the other thought on that too is the availability of having it if the town decided one particular town meeting that they didn't want to cover that 1/3. That kind of gives us something too to say grab from, to try and at least keep some of these costs down for the users
I agree with
Yeah.
that. yeah.
on a year-to-year basis. Kind of an ace in the hole, so to speak.
Yeah.
And basically, on the accounting advice we've gotten, we'd rather not take it, but again, the flexibility is the key here.
Right, and we're conservative not to take the full remaining
Right.
1.6 million. We're just trying to get to the point of not having to use anything except new customers. Okay, so, want to make a motion to use the take a total of 153,000 from the apartment betterment,
We'd be-
excess betterment?
wait a minute, it's really, the 153 is, make sure this is clear, 100 of it's for this,
Correct.
but we're using 153 for
The-
something else. So
The
should I-
53 is already covered, so yeah,
Yeah, so it should be just 100, right?
just the 100.
Okay, so I'd make the motion, we take 100,000 this year for the purposes of reducing the leaching field debt for this fiscal '26, right?
Yes, yes.
I'll second that discussion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good. That works. That works. So we've got the formula, we've got the revenue we want to use towards it. And thank you, town meeting, it makes a big difference. And just the semantics of it all. I mean, all angles were being looked at with Jeannie and Dave and I. We just, we'll work with the water department about getting all those charge codes put on. And I did have a question. Through this process, we found that some of the betterments for the condos ended up being like a half a betterment, $7,000 and the $8,000, if it was like a one-bedroom. We have to dig more into it. But what I'd like to say is that a condo is at least a minimum of one ERU for this situation.
For this
Because-
discussion on splitting the ERU
Right.
over the leaching fields.
Right, for the leaching field, special assessment, condos are to be considered a minimum of one ERU.
Because this is how we are basing the billing, is how many ERUs you
Yeah,
have
we can't be
Correct.
breaking it
per
up.
lot.
Right,
And this is, if you have one, you're getting one, if you have three, you get three.
Yeah.
exactly,
Okay, as long as everybody knows, how
Yeah.
much is that. That's how we are basing the billing.
yeah.
And I
So-
agree with the condominiums, if they're one bedroom, whatever, they are participating in the ERU.
Because some of them have a master water meter and some don't. So that's where, that'll all get figured out in the process, but if we at least have that as a rule, it'll make it easier.
Yeah, we should, how that fits in our rules and regulations, I'm not sure, I don't see that particular.
When you look at the condos, when we're adding up all the ERUs to get
Yeah,
to this
that's,
point,
yeah, so then you go backwards.
and then you look at
Yeah.
a particular condo and it's like, how did that happen? So, that's,
But we can't adjust it now, it's already been assessed, so that's, okay. I
Right.
agree, yeah. Do we need a motion on that?
yes, let's take one.
So I'll make a motion that for the purposes of this special assessment, that the minimum is one ERU. There's no fractions of an ERU. It's one ERU.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's good. I think that takes care of this. It's because we've got the formula, we're gonna do it on the water sewer bills, and we're gonna do it on the sooner the better, as soon as we can get it. And we have to look into, we were talking about four quarters.
Right.
Then the conversation went to, well, some properties turn off their water for the winter, so maybe we do it in 2 quarters rather than the full 4. Because if your water's turned off, you don't even get a minimum bill for the service charge. So that's, we'll work that out.
But that would cover that summer shutdown, or on, I mean, it's not shutdown, but, yeah, so that you wouldn't have to.
Do something on
That
it.
makes sense.
Yeah, so it'll probably be, and again, we'll have that more confirmed for the next discussion. So right now, it would probably be 2 out of the 4 quarters.
It's an interesting point, because when I was at the last water commission, there was a gentleman there who had a cottage, but he wouldn't, I know, there's cottages on West Street.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he had 2 cottages on West Street, and it was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. It's right around the corner from me.
Okay, so we'll look into that. So that's that. I think the only other conversation would be on the rules and regulations for the betterments. Talk about that, with that, the second page of the handout. Well, the first page breaks down our debt. We've used a little more than $1.2 million from our own town meeting articles to subsidize anticipated debt shortfalls, whether it was debt or the operating budget, and we haven't used all of that, but that's what we've taken out of available funds for Dave to use. So that's $1.2 million, and I broke that down in a further sheet that shows was 601,000 in 2024, and I know we did not use all that. April of '25, we have 300,000 allocated, and then again, this year, we allocated 370,000. And again, it doesn't look like it'll even be close to any of those amounts being needed. That a true statement?
Yes.
Okay. But again, they were taken out of circulation, so $1.2 million. The plant expansion and leaching fields come to $22.6 million. Add the admin's fees, that's another $500,000. So without interest, the plant expansion and the leaching field debt and subsidizing ourselves is $24,423,729. We add in the interest, those two projects cost $32,522,087. And then on the second page, if we take the approach that how to derive a new betterment amount, if we took the total debt of those projects divided by the estimated additional ERUs available for the fourth tank of 865, it would be $37,598 over a 20-year payback amount. If someone wanted to pay something in full without the interest, it would be $28,236. And those are just estimates. I know we were talking about making it as equivalent to replacing a septic system.
Right.
And those numbers have been as high as 50,000.
Oh, easy.
But, you know, it's also was mentioned that, you know, we don't want to overprice ourselves either, so. But at a minimum, it would be $38,000, I would think. And we can, you know, at our next continued public meeting, we can hone in on an actual price, unless someone has an idea now what they think it should be.
Well, I think this is going to be an ongoing discussion,
Okay.
and I think it's good to try to set a number tonight. So, and the other factor here is we've looked at other towns that are in the same boat,
Right.
particularly what David found, and my sister and brother who live in Harwich and Chatham in that area. They're looking at in the mid-$50,000 range for their systems, betterment fees.
Do we know what Plymouth is charging for a new hookup with them?
I think Plymouth will be a different animal because they already have the sewage treatment plant paid for. You know, a lot of that stuff's paid for, I think,
Right,
and so
right.
they don't have the same calculus that we have with the debt that's sitting there. I may be wrong on part of it because they did have some things, but I think most of that was paid for by much of the town, I think.
And I
don't
would think
they're in
the
same boat.
scaling is different as well, because the
Yeah.
amount of users you have tying into Plymouth,
Okay.
sharing the cost, as opposed to Kingston being a smaller footprint.
Yeah. So,
The numbers may not
Yeah, I was just
jive.
curious. I mean,
I don't know what their numbers are.
but just taking 22,000, we did this discussion in the past, and from its 15 years or so, it hasn't changed. It's the same thing as not having done our rates, but this is not outside at all. This is actually lower than what interest would have come up with. And the value of houses.
By
you know,
today's standard, it's
About this,
definitely a lot lower than.
the value of houses is, you know, the average cost of houses in Kingston is in the $500,000 range and up, easy,
Yeah.
like the rest of the world. So this isn't outside of any kind of crazy number, let's put it that way. So my thought would be, for discussion, is to hold the number 38,000, make it round it off to 38,000, because that's usually how we do it. But I'll make that motion just to discuss it, put that in there as a
As a starting number?
starting number going forward from now on. We may have to go up and look at it again, but let's see how people come into this.
I'll second it for discussion. I don't know if I'll vote on it in favor of that amount at this moment. It seems to me we're gonna be pricing ourselves at that, although I'd have to talk to a couple of engineers in local town, people that actually put in septic systems, and see if they were close to what they're getting.
Okay, do you think it's too high or too low?
I think it might be too high at 38. I mean, right now, we're at 22.
Right.
And I think, you know, the high 20s might be more of the range that I would be comfortable with. But I need to talk to a few people.
Okay, that's fine.
You know, people who install systems, to say how much you getting for a system. You know?
All right, if you look, what I'm thinking about is, the 38 is the total paying back over 20 years, right?
Right.
Whereas 28 is a number that's if you pay it off cash now.
Right, that's what I was looking at
So-
right now.
So if you, yeah, I think if, again, the amortization cost, I mean, that's a good, we can check out some of these. I mean, $30,000 for septic systems, I think on the low
I
side.
think that's about where it's at.
But I think we want to, see, the question we can't, this really isn't a septic system replacement number. This is a betterment of your house number. So it's a really different thing. Your house is being bettered, and that's how this is structured. You're gonna see, again, if you look at the cost, it's not just the septic system cost. You gotta maintain it, you gotta do all the stuff, pumping, all the stuff. If you don't do that, then we're back to where we don't wanna be. We're trying to get septic systems out of anywhere in our zone. So
Right.
we have the law enforcing that issue. So to make it a comparison to a septic system really is not correct. It's gotta be on what are you bettering the house for. So if you have sewer, your house is, you don't have to worry about this anymore. So the value of your house goes up just because you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Right.
Now, a lot of people don't want to think of it that way, but that's really what it's doing. And you go to the Nook, when, as soon as the sewer went in, people's houses went from zero value almost to $80,000 in overnight, because it bettered their house, you know? So it's a kind of a different analysis. It is a different, not kind of, that's, so if we want to keep discussing, I think that's fine. We're not, we can do this at the continued meeting.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because again, if I own a house and I have to replace my system, and I pay and put a Title V in, I'm bettering my house, but I'm paying for it up front. You know, but there's areas that they can't put a system in. And I understand that, it's like especially the Nook, if you're digging down 4 feet, you're hitting granite, or you're hitting a rocks. You know, there's nothing there to work with. So, yes, they have no choice. And whatever the cost, the better, you know, then that's a betterment. I understand, but you just can't, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like, again, I know the 38,000 was for the total cost. And basically, if you want to just pay it off up front, it's 28.
Yeah.
You know.
So, yeah.
So that's about right, in my mind's eye.
Okay, we can,
Because if I had to put a septic system in, it's gonna cost me $30,000, that right there, boom. You know, we're at that point, but.
Yeah, I will say too, as far as the septic systems, 20 to 30 years, then your system fails. Whereas you get on the sewer system, and as long as there's a wastewater department in Kingston, in perpetuity, you have access to the plant.
Yep.
So there is a positive benefit to it, to Brian's point, that every 20 to 30 years, you're not having to re-up a new
Right.
septic system on your property. So it does add some additional value, but, you know, you do have to kind of think of yourself, you don't want to price yourself out either, so. I like the idea of continuing the discussion, but
yeah, get some
we
more information.
definitely have to
We gotta
set
pay
a
the
number,
bill.
because we're going off a number that was
10 years ago,
10,
anyways, yeah.
15, 20 years ago.
Yeah,
And obviously, the price of eggs have gone up in the last 20 years, so.
Well, I think when the plant first went online, an EIU was about $13,000.
yeah.
Is what the original
11,
assessments were.
yeah,
Okay.
between
And that's back
11
in
and 12.
2000. So then I could see where it got up to 22 after 15 or 20 years. But now we're even beyond that. You know, we're 25 years into it. And
But really didn't, it went from 13 to 22, and it's been 22 for over 10 years,
yeah,
15
Yeah.
years, see, so we've only been in existence for 24. So it's only, it's that debt lost revenue
Right.
between 22 and what it should have gone up to maybe 29, 28 after 3 or 4 or 5 years. then up to 35, and then we would've had a lot more revenue. So now we're having to play catch-up on what we didn't do, what the commission way back didn't do, for whatever reason, but here we are. So this gives us an opportunity to go for new users, not current users. It's all new people coming in, and they know this is the cost of doing business.
Right.
Particularly if they're on the sewer anyway, they had to hook up. We're not gonna let people be putting septic systems into the sewers in front of the house, or they're on the facility plan, because then we're just cutting our own throat again. You know, so
Yeah.
Right.
that's part of the discussion we have to have too.
Okay, and the fact that, you know, phase one, phase two can be grandfathered in at a specific number lower than this and keep a higher number for new users.
Well, because the phase one and phase two paid for all the infrastructure in
Right.
the original building. And, you know, people who are coming in have to contribute back into that.
Right,
Yeah, that's why
The
this
new
has to be.
users.
so we can have two different amounts, 3 amounts if we need to, whatever
Yes,
makes it reasonable to everybody
Okay,
involved.
no,
Okay, so we can put this for the next meeting.
yeah. Do you want to remove your motion?
Yeah, I'll
The
withdraw
38.
that. I'll withdraw that
No.
for further discussion.
Yeah, I'll second that too. Yeah, thank you.
So if I could just add a little something as
Sure.
well. So if we look at it, that we started out at 11 and went to 22, and it's been, say, 10 years since
Yeah.
we looked at that,
Yeah,
should we maybe look at this as, you know, more in like 5-year windows? You know, to go from
Yeah.
11 to 22, and then say 22 to, call it 34 or something,
Mhm.
you know? Maybe we should look at it every 5 years and say, because every 5 years, the cost of,
oh, yeah, yeah.
you know, the operational costs start increasing. You've got
Yeah.
your labor increases, all the electrical, all the chemical supplies we buy, pretty much every single category we deal with increases year by year. You know, if we look at it from a 5-year window instead of every 10, it might benefit the department.
Yeah,
I agree, definitely.
yeah,
You know, just, it should have been every 2 or 3 years.
right,
It should have gone up in increments, you
right,
know, as fees should have been doing over the, but we just did it all in one shot last year.
right,
And hopefully that'll stick around for a while, that
agreed.
particular rate.
Right, and getting
Yeah.
more users, it's,
And that'll stay as a fixed cost from here
Yeah.
on out.
And the sooner you jump on, the better off you are.
Hmm.
You know, you wait 5 years and maybe the rates go up some more. It might encourage some people like, say, Town and Country to come on quicker than
Yeah.
later, so.
and that's it, that would be another category for consideration,
Mhm.
so.
I'm just doing a quick calculation here.
Because typically what the betterment has been is the project costs divided by the number of users for that program, or that phase. That's usually how the betterment's been arrived at,
Gotcha.
so. Because it's been to pay debt.
And I'll ask a couple of installers this week
Yeah.
and see
Yeah,
what
that'd be good.
what they think a normal system would be.
The Board of Health would be a good contact
Yeah.
as well,
Yeah.
you know, because they establish some of those loans for the current
Oh, yeah,
people putting in systems, so she'd probably have a good idea specific to this community, you know, what sort of expenses they're looking at.
yeah.
Well, Colony Planning, I think, is still running that. Okay, I'll call the office.
Okay,
Just to, I know we took my motion off, but just if you take 22,000, escalate it at 4%, that's $64,000.
jeez.
So if you go back to, in that, this is real stuff. I mean, this is, so if we don't get it from somebody, it's coming out of our pocket somehow.
Right.
Now, if you go back to, just to be fair, because everyone wants to be at, say, 3%. We'll use 2. That's the golden number. And that would be, 50,000.
Jeez.
At 2%. So that's, that's kind of like what everybody in the Fed likes to see. Now, we haven't been there, except for the last several years. But so I'm just trying to point out, it's between 50 and 64, if you take, that's 13 years, I didn't do the whole 15. So, those are things to think about.
Oh, that's good. And just for the people at home, Dave handed me a note, and it was just clarification from our office manager that, Jeannie, that we can use the 1.6 million as long as we can explain why it's reasonable. It needs to be reasonable and explainable. And I believe what we've discussed tonight is reasonable and is explainable.
Yes,
So
I agree.
I just wanted to put that out there if
Yeah,
anybody
that's a good point.
saw a note being passed, so. Okay, so we're gonna have, we'll have language for the next meeting on the formula. And definition of additional revenue. And then we're gonna discuss the betterment connection fees and more. And I just wanna point out in our rules and regulations, page 29 of 39, we're gonna have to change some of this language too, because we have, we have additional bedrooms. 4-bedroom, it says, single-family dwelling will be allowed without an additional cost, so I think we can discuss it, but I think we're still all in agreement with that one. And the next one says 5-bedroom, single-family dwelling will be charged 1/3 of the most recent project cost where a betterment was assessed. So that language we'll have to readdress. The language that says most recent project cost where a betterment was assessed. And then, whether or not we still want to keep that type of formula again, so it, don't put a money amount to it. So we'll have to discuss that, and then, different categories of betterments, I guess we would call it that, like phase 1, phase 2, new users, a unique, construction project would be another one, so.
How many bedrooms does that go up to, that calculation? You have it for the 5th bedroom and that?
5th is 1/3, 6th is 2/3, 7th would be 100% of the most recent. So with 7, you'd be paying.
That's in phase 1 and phase 2, as part of that
We,
4th bedroom.
yes, we have to make that definitive.
Okay, all right.
And then 8th bedroom, we said we would discuss it. It would have to come before the commissioners. So basically, if you've got 7 bedrooms, that's really 2 EIUs. It's either 3, so, but we'll revisit that.
Right. But I know that the spirit of the discussion and the motions that were made for that were only for simply for phase 1 and phase 2,
Correct,
for residential units.
right.
Okay.
Essentially, that's all been accounted for in some way.
Individual.
Yeah.
The old phase 1 and phase 2, my
Yeah.
phase 2 is still on the table. Okay,
So anything else that,
no, I think that's good.
okay, so it's just to confirm the language for the leaching field special assessment. Is that what we want to call it?
Yes,
Leaching field special assessment?
because that's specifically what the whole discussion
Right,
is about, just for the leaching field,
agreed,
not for any other infrastructure
right.
that was done in these last, the upgrades.
Yeah.
This is specifically for that, to cover what should have been done back in the beginning.
Right, and that's it,
Now we own this is our field, belongs to the town.
yes.
And the betterments take care of everything else
Yes.
going forward, yeah.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
cover
and,
both.
and until then, the septic is paying for the 4th tank debt. But again, this is the only, no, I mean, we don't want to charge anybody anything more, but this is till we get the new customers. And then it'd be revisited again. So we'll talk about the leaching field special assessment and then the betterments at our next meeting. So, Let's see when we want to have,
When would you like to continue this to?
let's see. Get the calendar.
This is, we'll be continuing the special hearing,
Right.
so you want
Only because we need to set a date
to?
tonight.
Yeah,
It appears Thursday nights, nobody else is using this room.
okay.
So that might be, we'll pick a Thursday, maybe in a couple of weeks.
The 19th? It's 2 weeks.
June 19th. That's June 19th, that's a holiday.
Is that officially now Juneteenth?
Yes,
Is it?
yes. How about the 26th?
Okay.
At 6:30? I'll make the motion to continue the public hearing until Thursday, June 26th at 6:30.
I'll second that.
Do you want me to just check the town calendar to make sure there's nothing?
Yes, that would be good.
Okay, let's stand by just a sec on that.
So you said 6:30?
Yes. Pending Dave's,
We will still be having a regular meeting in between that,
yeah,
but that's just a regular meeting, okay.
yeah. Or if we want, we can have our regular meeting at 6 the same night.
Or 5:30?
And we're
a
talking
regular
June 26th, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, if we're gonna have regular business, we probably have accumulated a lot of things like this memo. A lot of things might be happening in 2 weeks.
I don't see anything on there at this point, so come Monday, Jeannie can book the room.
Can you
Yeah.
put a deposit down on that right now, so we can lock that in?
In worst case, if we have to meet for 2 minutes on the 26th to continue it to another date, then that's what we do. But right now, our best guess would be, the motion's on the table for June 26th, Thursday, June 26th at 6:30 to continue the hearing. Bill
So I
seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So, that would end the business.
Okay, do you want me to make a motion to adjourn
Yes.
tonight? Motion to adjourn.
We've already continued, right?
Yes,
already
we continue.
Motion to adjourn. I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.